All right, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Mental Health Colorado's Legislative Lunch Break webinar series. Today is March 13th, 2026. My name is Ashley Perales, and I will be your host for today. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, the Q&A feature is live, and you can also email me at aperales@mentalhealthcolorado.org. And with that, I will pass it to Vincent.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome back. I'm Vincent Atchity. I'm the president and CEO. Wendy?
Good afternoon. I'm Wendy Buxton Andrade, and I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs, and we welcome you all here.
Well, just as a reminder for those of you who may be joining us for the first time or haven't been paying attention, we are Mental Health Colorado. We've been in the state since 1953, working to pass laws, change practices, and build a movement promoting healthier minds across the lifespan for all Coloradans. We like to emphasize the lifespan and point out that there are great opportunities to recognize unmet needs at every point along the lifespan for all people. And much of our legislative activity is focused in each of these focus areas. This week, we are going to remind you that our priority bill this session has been Senate Bill 60, Youth Athletic Coach Mental Health Education. This is an important bill recognizing the mental health needs of young athletes and ensuring that coaches are well prepared to recognize signs of distress so that appropriate referrals to support and services may be made in a timely way, and also to ensure that people are attentive to the possible mental health consequences of an experience of concussion. We finally got to have our day in committee yesterday in the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, and can be pleased to report that it passed out of committee unanimously with bipartisan support and enthusiastic support. We got great praise for having a lineup of powerful testimony, and the chair of the committee pointed out that this was an excellent example of how laws ought to be made in the state of Colorado based on people's lived experience and the moving sharing of the stories. Wendy, do you want to add anything?
We had the best thing that could happen when it comes to bill. We actually had unanimous approval, and it went on a consent calendar. So this is amazing. It's been a week of making sure that we have people there and working with everybody at the table to make sure that this bill is an excellent bill, and we got there. And it's a great victory for youth in the athletic. And it, just so you guys know, this is going to be called the Alyssa Act in honor of Alyssa that had a concussion and is no longer with us after having a mental health crisis. So we honor Alyssa's legacy, and that she's continuing to help other children and coaches build a better society. So we thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just mention the detail of the process. This was out of committee referred to what's called the consent calendar. And that's when there's not expected to be anything in the way of opposition to a bill so that it can pass through its next stage with minimum additional difficulty. It'll be on its way to the House next. This bill we mentioned in previous weeks. This is a bill that came out of the Legislative Committee on Behavioral Health Disorders in the Criminal and Juvenile Justice System, and offers some adjustments to the way youthful offenders are supported in Department of Corrections for more effective community reintegration and minimized recidivism. This bill has also made it all the way through now and is on its way to the governor's desk. For those of you who don't know all of these kinds of things already, bills go to the governor's desk to be signed into law. The governor has a certain amount of time to sign them into law, and they become law even without the governor's signature if the governor does not want to sign it for some reason or another, or fails to do so within the time frame. The governor also has the option of vetoing bills. I don't think we anticipate any veto in the case of this particular one. Wendy, do you want to add anything about this one?
Nope. This one is on its way to becoming law.
House Bill 1305. I don't think we've mentioned this in past weeks before. This is a bill that expands access to care where by allowing a inpatient healthcare facility to operate under a Maine hospital's license so that it does not need to seek independent licensing for its operation. So it's kind of in the weeds as a infrastructure type bill, but it really does effectively increase access to care. And it's been assigned to the House Health and Human Services Committee. And that's what we're going to hear on March 17th of next week.
And this actually will increase rural health care in some of those mental health deserts that we have. So it opens up a door that way, and we're in support of this bill.
House Bill 1322, Civil Actions for Conversion Therapy Survivors. This has not yet been assigned, or actually was assigned to House Judiciary. The committee hasn't been assigned yet. So this bill allows individuals who have experienced injury resulting from exposure to what's been known as conversion therapy, which has been an attempt to change somebody's sexual orientation or gender identity in the context of a clinical care setting, which has been disallowed by the state of Colorado. This allows for civil action for claims of injury consequent to that kind of experience, and is important for people's ongoing well-being as they continue to develop their resilience after that kind of an experience.
And just so to clarify, it has been assigned to House Judiciary Committee, but it has not been calendared yet. So we don't know when the hearing is going to happen, but it has been assigned. So.
House Bill 1043, the Transport Network Company Discriminatory Practices. I think we've mentioned this one in past weeks. This introduces some protections against, particularly for our purposes, health-based discrimination, where drivers of companies that maintain those transportation networks have been known to abandon or fail to pick up individuals based on health conditions. This offers some additional protections so that measures can be taken and fines can be levied to help end that kind of discrimination.
And a lot of them have justified their discrimination because of service animals and not wanting service animals in their vehicle. That will not happen after this bill makes it clear through, that there will not be a time where they can use that as an excuse not to pick up somebody that is asking for services. We will be testifying as soon as it comes back to the committee hearing and is calendared, but it's right now through the House floor.
House Bill 1115, this is prepaid wireless telecom services modifications. This bill is making sure that the steps we took back in 2022 to ensure that there's a funding mechanism to support 988 crisis calls associated with your phone bill. This closes some loopholes there that meant that the collection wasn't reaching all the phones in the state, and this tightens that up a little bit to make sure that we've got a steady stream of funding supporting our crisis line. And as I understand it, this has passed successfully out of both House and Senate, and again is on its way to the governor's desk.
Yes, this was amazing to watch how many of the legislators signed on to this bill to support it and became co-sponsors. So it's got tremendous amount of support behind it, and hopefully the governor will sign very soon.
Senate Bill 95, measures to support victim survivors of crimes. This has been assigned to the House Judiciary Committee after passing out of the Senate. And what this does is it puts additional protections in place to support victims of crime, particularly victims of sexual assault, ensuring that there's all kinds of appropriate due process and continuity of care in place to make sure that people are offered the best possible opportunities for recovery and well-being. Wendy?
This one is waiting to be calendared in the House Judiciary Committee, and we're just waiting for it to be calendared so we know the next steps of it. And so it has passed the Senate, so it's waiting for House Judiciary to calendar.
Senate Bill 113, require recovery residences to obtain a BHA license. Recovery residences are facilities that support individuals in recovery from substance use conditions, and practices in recovery residences can vary widely depending on the size and location and staffing and configuration of those residences. The BHA licensure process will ensure standards of care and pathways for recourse when there are violations and where care and support fall short of those expected standards. This is on its way to Senate appropriations. Wendy?
And just so you know, this bill is a follow-up to a bill that Mental Health Colorado has done in the past, where there can be violations and they can express violations to the Behavioral Health Administration, but the Behavioral Health Administration did not have a certification for this. So basically they could issue letters of cease and desist. It did not have a lot of teeth in those cease and desist. So this will allow people to have recourse and Behavioral Health Administration to have recourse on those bad actors in this much needed arena to make sure that people can stay in recovery residence and know that they're very honorable recovery residents and supports are there for their loved ones.
Turning to wellness and aging, House Bill 1110. I think we've mentioned this in previous weeks. This is vulnerable adult financial exploitation banking, and what this does is add some additional protections to shield people from being exploited or becoming victims of fraud and scams that strip them of their accumulated savings in different kinds of ways. This is passed out of the House and is on its way to its Senate committee.
And this has not been calendared yet for Senate committee. This did have some amendments that were passed along with this to make sure that banks and savings and loans felt protected, but also that they did not fall down on their priorities of making sure that people that they did not get a pass, basically, if somebody lost all their bank information. So the protections are there for the consumers and protection for the banking industry. So we will see when it's calendar at the Senate committee.
In reducing potential harm from drugs and alcohol, Senate Bill 6 is parity for non-opioid pain management drugs. This bill is based on the recognition that much chronic pain can be effectively managed with non-opioid pain management drugs. Non-opioid pain management drugs for many consumers may be a less risky pathway to take for pain management, as they're not as exposed to the risks of addiction. This bill ensures that your insurance coverage will make those drugs as available to you as they've made opioids available to us over past years. This has made it through Senate appropriations. It's on its way to the Senate floor, as I understand it.
And working the opioid settlement, this bill definitely is something that everybody talks about in making sure that there's non-opioid pain management, because the one thing that we want to make sure that there is no addiction there and protection of the consumers. And so this is a good bill to make sure that there are a variety of ways that pain management can be handled. And so it is headed to the Senate floor, and then we'll watch the calendar after that.
Senate Bill 131, which we've listed under reduced potential harm for drugs and alcohol because it's addiction related. This is a bill about sports betting protections and acknowledges the risks of gambling disorder and gambling addiction and the harms that those play out on individuals and their families. The bill establishes a number of different protections against the sort of gamification, the addictive gamification of gambling that makes use of credit cards and reminders and extra kinds of layers of betting more accessible. This dials all of that back a little bit protectively so that the online sports betting remains legal and accessible to adults in the state of Colorado, but reduces some of the risks of addiction.
And we've all sat during those games where these commercials come up constantly and making it look like it's so much fun to sit there and bet on it, but you can get into trouble really quick. And so these are putting parameters on a lot of that's happening and making sure that we are protecting those that can be easily influenced. So this is headed to House Judiciary on the 18th this next week, and we'll be there to testify on supporting this bill. And I said the 18th, it's actually the 17th. My mistake.
Wendy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I think it's March 17th. And also, we are looking for people with lived experience to testify on this bill, to submit written or spoken testimony. So if you or someone you know has experience with gambling addiction or sports betting, mental health impact, please do reach out to us and we'll help coordinate testimony. You can email me at aprales@mentalhealthcolorado.org for that.
Thanks, Ashley. Senate Bill 14 under decriminalizing health conditions is modifications to defense of not guilty by reason of insanity. This is another bill that came out of the Behavioral Health Disorders in the Criminal and Juvenile Justice System Committee. This bill basically creates some step down pathways for individuals who have been adjudicated as NGRI, as it's put. It's received a number of different kinds of amendments, but it passed out of the Senate and is on its way to House Judiciary.
This one is the March 18th. My mistake. I jumped ahead. So it's March 18th at 1:30, and we will be there to testify on it too on the House Judiciary Committee.
Updates and announcements. A couple of things to mention. The short announcement is, I think in last time or the time before, I had mentioned that the commissioner of the Behavioral Health Administration, Danette Smith, had resigned. The latest announcement in that regard is that Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera has accepted the role of interim commissioner of the BHA. So we don't yet know what that means for the BHA, but we are grateful to the Lieutenant Governor for taking on that role in the meantime as this administration enters its final months or heads towards the end of the year. The other thing to mention is just on the radar for upcoming legislation, we're expecting a bill to be introduced in an effort to address the state's long-term competency backlog. If you're not familiar with that, what we have in this state, the state has been sued by plaintiffs representing the interests of individuals who have been held in jail in violation of their rights with presumption of innocence as they await competency evaluation and competency restoration. In the United States, in order to be adjudicated in a judicial process, you need to be competent to stand trial. Many individuals are deemed incompetent or their competency has been challenged, and that triggers a whole process of competency evaluation, competency restoration. The state can't keep up with the time frame that's been established by a federal consent decree due to the backlog and the inability to process that number of individuals through that restoration process. And as a consequence, the state's been paying over $10 million a year in fines. And so state actors are quite eager to solve the competency backlog problem somehow. We are expecting a bill to be introduced. We've seen a draft that was 212 pages long that already has a number of different questions associated with it that stakeholders are investigating. So as that becomes clearer, or when it's finally introduced, we'll be sharing additional updates in weeks to come. I think that's it for updates and announcements. Wendy, can you think of anything else?
Oh,
No,
You want to talk about the
you've
event?
covered everything.
okay. Thank you so much, Vincent and Wendy. As a reminder, we have the Suicide Prevention Advocacy Day of the Capitol is coming up next Thursday, March 19th. You can scan that QR code on the top to register for the event. And also that same day, RAD is happening, Recovery Advocacy Day at the Capitol, Thursday, March 19th, and that's hosted by Advocates for Recovery Colorado. So if you can make it to one or both events, be in two places at one time, or go to one in the morning and one in the afternoon, we hope to see you there. Our team will be there as well. And if you aren't already a member of our Brainwave Advocacy Network, we highly encourage you to join. Not only do you get to attend these webinars, we also send weekly updates and monthly newsletters giving overviews of the month and opportunities to engage in advocacy at the Capitol with us. And if you want to keep following all the legislation that we prioritize this session, there's a QR code there that'll lead you to our website that has our legislative priorities listed there for you too. And thank you so much to our lovely sponsors, Rocky Mountain Health Plans, Accessa and Johnson & Johnson for supporting this webinar. If you all have any questions after the webinar, anytime really, you can email me, Ashley at aprales@mentalhealthcolorado.org. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. See you next
Thank
time.
you, everyone.